No, ladies and gentlemen, we're live again. It's a late night Friday. Usually we try to do these a little earlier. And if your eyes, they are not deceiving you, you do see this is not an AI trick.
Yeah,
The
yeah,
Averys, plural, are in the house.
yeah. You're not seeing double, people.
There
We're
you
like
go. You got Bobby and Ryan.
we're like a before and after Richie Tannenbaum.
Yeah, this is essentially like Double Dragon. They were separated at birth and now we've united them. And if somehow they begin to shoot off magical powers, Joe, this was us. We did this. We have created two new superheroes, and hey, they will live in
Oh
infamy.
yeah, hell yeah.
So today, ladies, gentlemen, we are going to be discussing video games. This is, next to WWE, this is probably we're going to get the most views on this one. We talk about,
That's
what's
right.
going on in Iran.
True.
No one watches. We talk about video games. 1,000 people view us. Hey, you
True.
got to give the people what they want. So for the most part, this is going to be an Avery special. We're going to start with Bobby A. Bobby A is going to set the table, and then pretty much Joe, you and I, we're on the sidelines. We're going to chime in when we feel like it's our opportune moment. But really, ladies and gentlemen, this is just an opportunity to watch two rapscallions from the Bronx just kick it for the next hour and 15 minutes. So without
That's
further
right.
ado,
That's
I'm going to
right,
kick it
baby.
to you, Bobby A, and then not Bobby A. Giddy up.
Yeah. So yeah, thanks for the intro, Chris. And for everyone, that's my brother. Love him. Big up. Long time coming. I hope this is not the last time you're
Dude,
on this channel.
I
Uh,
was telling Chris how pumped I am. Super excited.
nice.
You're gonna have to rein me in. I'm serious on
Yeah,
this one.
no, I know. I've lived with this man for years. I know. so, um, so what we're gonna talk about the state and like the general state of video gaming now, as opposed to when it was when the consoles were invented in the 80s and 90s. So the differences between that, and then we're gonna get into why the storylines and the plots and the premises are better in video games now, which has Hollywood adopting the stories from video games and putting it on film and on television and on streaming services and stuff like that. So that's basically where we're going. So my first question to my brother is, what how do you find, as an avid gamer, because I stopped playing long ago, back when the 2D scrolls were going, so like Mario, Mega Man, Sonic. How do you see the landscape of video gaming now as opposed to when we were playing when we were growing up?
Okay, so
Yeah.
now 2025 video games are for sure art. I don't think there's any debate in that, my opinion. And I want to frame your question with
Yeah.
giving you a background on how I view video games as art,
Yeah.
and then I'll
All right.
give you, to answer your question from a technical perspective, I'll go through the
Yeah,
history of where we
like
went from the first video game from 1958 called Tennis for Two. I don't know if any of you guys ever
I
knew
don't
that.
even know what that
No
is.
idea.
Yeah.
Everyone thinks it's Pong, but Pong was the first home console that people play. You know, the
Right.
two
Yeah.
sticks and the ball
Hmm.
going back.
Yeah.
Okay, that was at home. The first video game was a computer arcade game in 1958 called Tennis for Two. So it was Pong, but like the arcade version before it went to home console.
That sounds exactly like a 1950s title.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it does. And the inventor, Joe, you're going to say it sounds like a 1950s guy. His name was William Higginbotham. Okay,
Yeah,
that's
very,
real.
very waspy. I like it. Fits
So
for
the
the
big
time.
the big Higgs is the creator of the first video game ever,
Mm-hmm. All right.
1958. So art. Okay. So 2025 video games are art, just like paintings and sculptures, just like fashion, music, movies, architecture,
Mm-hmm.
books, acting. It's right up there with all those mediums, and in my opinion is better because as a gamer you can experience the art as well as consume it. So you're not just sitting there watching a movie, you're actually playing the
You're
movie.
interacting with it. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so that's why I like video games more than, of course I love movies, but TV, listening to music, you know I love looking at beautiful architecture. Going to New York, that's all you see. Washington Square Park, all that jazz.
Mm-hmm.
But video games is my favorite form of art. So how do we define art?
Mm.
Art, I wrote down this quote because this person is a unbelievable philosopher, great thinker of our time, a paragon of art. His name is Shia LaBeouf.
Oh, there we go.
I knew it was going to be something crazy.
Okay, and his quote. I mean, I don't agree with
Guy
everything
loves a party, I'll tell you that.
in his. Apparently, I don't agree with everything he did in his personal life, and we don't have to get into that.
No.
But he
Yeah.
said a quote in an interview when someone asked him to define art that I was like, damn, I agree with that 100%. So they said, what is art? And he said, art is anything that moves you. Okay, so it doesn't have to be a painting or a sculpture. Anything, a piece of clothing, a Peloton bike.
That's fair.
These curtains. Somebody designed that and put blood, sweat, and tears into the designing that curtain, white linen, just to elicit emotion out of people. So anything that moves you, excitement, fear, anger, disgust, happiness, anxiety, love, hate, anything that elicits those emotions out you can be art. And that's why when you see something really cool, I mean, we've all said this before, you see something really cool or really interesting, you say, wow, that's a work of art.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's the genesis. But Shia LaBeouf, I agree with you, Shai. Okay, that's art. Now that we define with art what art is, I want to tell you guys how I analyze art, and then I'll stop talking and let you guys chime in on how you guys analyze art, because that's going to get into the video game discussion. So how I analyze art always is I look at the creator, the storyteller, and I frame their theme in the form of a question that I have to answer. So for one of the pieces of art we're going to be talking about, which is The Last of Us video game, which is now a TV show on HBO, the theme of the first video game is, as a form of a question, is how far are you willing to go for someone you love? And you, as the consumer of the art, you're answering that question with every scene in them. And every scene, every character form of dialogue, every interaction between the relationships with everyone, every little mission you go on is answering that question slowly but surely. And then there's a plot twist, and then you really got to answer that question at the very end, which we'll get to, when you have to make a giant decision at the end of that game. But that's how I analyze art. So I'll turn it to you guys to see how you analyze art. I frame it in the form of a question. How do you guys do it?
That's interesting. Joe, why don't you start this one off, because you're very introspective. Then Avery, then I'll go.
Before I answer that question, I actually want to just go back. What got you guys into video games? Like, what's the genesis of this whole project?
Bobby, you can answer first.
What was the game that got you started? What
So I
interested you?
believe we started playing with Mario, the Duck Hunt Mario combination game on the original Nintendo, and
yeah, we were like 9 years old.
Yeah, like a little
92, 93?
like second grade, like third grade, and so that got us hooked. You know, the Duck Hunt, when you had the gun, the one when you had you can shoot the screen, that one. But then we evolved over time, and I think it's a lot because of our upbringing. I mean, we grew up in the Bronx, so I think it was like our family wanted to keep us indoors because it wasn't. I'm not saying it was like a hardcore neighborhood, but it wasn't the safest neighborhood. You know what I'm saying? And in an effort to keep us indoors, they would buy us video games. So that's what got us like almost addicted to it. And my brother was way better at the open world games, so we would play like we talked about this, like the Final Fantasy games and stuff. But I was always better at like the fighting games and the scrolling games. So Yeah, my brother knows. I want you to admit it right now. When I'm Zelda in Super Smash Brothers, you couldn't beat me. You couldn't beat me, dude. So, but that doesn't make you like a real gamer nowadays. Like those days of like Smash fighting games and like button mashing games are gone now.
Well, and I think to your brother's point, like there is people who play video games, and then there are people who are admirers and more of
Yeah,
appreciators of like the work that goes into them. So to your
yeah,
question, like about art, I mean, to me, I think Shiloh, my big man LaBeouf, wherever you are, I would say like that. I think that's a fair assessment of art, right?
Yeah.
Because it's
whatever
it's
touches
almost,
you.
yeah,
Yeah,
it's so open ended, because that's true, right? Like there's someone could make there's a lot of art that's supposed to be art. This is supposed to move you, but it doesn't. And then there's stuff that's unexpected, like a random TV show you watch on a whim, and you're like, you become emotional. So I think it is one of those things, you see it, you know it when you experience it. Now, not to derail us, but I think the interesting thing is with gaming, though, like gaming as an art, I guess it's an interesting category because it also is an aggregate of multiple arts, right? So you have a storyline, so you're having to come up with a story that's
mhm,
artistic, right? You
Mhm.
have the artistry, the visual artistry, so what we're seeing, the colors, the layout, the
Mhm.
musical choices.
yep.
Um,
Big part of it.
yeah, so
Music.
I guess it's like it's like, how do we summarize all of that? Because it kind of transcends a lot of different things. It's not like I'm watching it, I'm also experiencing it. So it's like art, living art. It almost is its own thing, I would feel like. I don't know if
Yeah,
that
Agreed.
no,
resonates with anyone.
No,
yeah,
it does. It does resonate.
I agree.
You brought up a good point about music. For sure,
Hmm.
Yeah,
music is a
huge.
big part of video games, and there's actually it's speaking the CD Rob has behind him. It's a game called Final Fantasy Tactics, and the composer, it's a Japanese video game. That game, The Last of Us, is an American game. That
Mhm.
game from Japan. The composer is a gentleman called Nobu Uematsu,
Mhm.
very famous musician in Japan, and he was hired by that company that made that video game, SquareSoft, to do the score. And he's literally a composer in a
Yep,
symphony in
yep.
Japan.
That's crazy.
So the music in video games are gigantic influence, not just on video game culture, but in the zeitgeist at large, because they travel. That score that he has behind him right now,
Mm.
they travel around the world playing those songs,
Yeah, I
and
think they were in New York like last year. They did it like
yeah,
to a laser light show, and
yeah,
Wow.
and they and
Okay.
they performed.
yeah,
Mhm.
and they get thousands of people
Yeah.
in arenas and stuff. Yeah, so like you said, it's an amalgamation of all that art. So, Rob, you want to answer the question, or you want me to go to
Uh,
history of video games?
Now let me answer the art question first. So yeah, your
Go.
question about art, I agree with Chris and you. It's like it's how it makes you feel. It's how like you connect with it on a like a spiritual level, right? So that's what I think art is. Like even getting dressed in the morning. For me, the way I think about it is you it's your artistic representation of yourself to the world when you
Yeah.
step out your house and the way you're dressed, right?
Mhm.
So whether it's video games, fashion, music, theater, film, it's all the same thing to me. So but Joe, you need to answer this question. What do you think, what's your definition of what art is? Or
Definitely what all three of you echoed. It's this.
You're a little snobbish, though, Joe. Let's be honest.
I'm not going to deny that, but
Yes, you are.
I'm not. But yeah, it's definitely a way of how it makes you feel. I
Yeah.
know I connect since I was a kid. Connected the most with music. It takes you.
yeah.
It does a bunch of different things. It takes you to a certain like portal in time in terms of how you felt at that particular time.
Mhm.
It can make you feel a certain way in the moment. It's just basically a way of how it alters your feeling and if it amplifies it. That's just really how I see how art kind of makes me feel.
Cool.
Video games do all of that.
Yeah.
And we'll segue. So we talked about the first era of video games, which are just if you Google that first Tennis for Two arcade, it's literally a giant computer that has a little screen. It's like you're looking in the submarine window,
Yeah, it's crazy.
and it's a giant computer, probably this like half the size of this room, and it's just tennis back and forth. So that was the first era.
How
of
far
video
we've
games.
come in one lifetime. But
It's
go ahead,
amazing.
keep going.
It's amazing. So that was the 50s and 60s. And then the second era of video games, I'm going to dub the arcade period. That's when you started having arcades, Pac-Man, Pong, which we talked
Tetris.
about, Tetris. So you would go to the arcade and play those games on the arcade. That's the 70s. Then the 80s started with the first home console, which is the Nintendo, which you got in 1983 is when Nintendo was released in Japan. And then it came over to the US and it had Mario. It had Donkey Kong was the first game, which actually Mario came from Donkey Kong. So
That's correct.
Donkey Kong was the first Nintendo property. And then Mario was the little character you had to go to up
Save the
ladder.
princess. Yeah.
Correct. And defeat Donkey Kong. And then Mario got a spin-off. So this whole Mario franchise is a spin-off of Donkey Kong.
That's right.
That's crazy. I didn't know that.
I didn't know that
That's
either.
pretty interesting.
I knew
So
they
when
were
you
like interrelated, but I didn't know that.
Yeah. So when you guys go to trivia, you'll
Yeah, we
learn
can
that.
win that question.
You know, when you have your Gentlemen About Town leisure time, you three at your Pearl Jam concert or whatever the hell you guys were. It was loud. I couldn't hear nobody.
We were at the bar. Someone played Pearl Jam. I didn't put Pearl Jam.
I didn't play it, but I love Pearl Jam. I don't care what you guys say.
I'll give you a virtual fist. Pearl Jam is awesome. Okay, so that's the 80s, the first generation console.
Eddie Vedder, baby.
Then you had Eddie Vedder, that's right.
Yeah.
Then you had the 90s, which you got the PlayStation, the Sega Genesis.
That's where I came in.
Yep.
Yeah, it's
Same.
called the 16-bit era, and 16-bit just means the pixels. Chris, if you're in, coding, so you may know pixel. May know that word. So you had the 16-bit, which is the amount of pixels you can fit on the screen, and that was the Super Nintendo, Sega Genesis, and that's when you started getting more advanced games like Bobby mentioned, Legend of Zelda. And more open world, not just one little level where you scroll across and then you make it to the end and then the game is over.
Yeah.
So you had a bunch of missions and stuff. So that's the 90s. Then the 2000s is the third generation era where you started getting cinematic video games, where video games were starting to become like movies. There's one video game which started that trend. It's another Japanese game called Metal Gear Solid, if you guys have heard of that. It was by a company called Konami. You may have heard of that gaming company too.
So is this a Japanese? So is Metal Gear Solid a Japanese game?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
That's so crazy, man. I was playing Metal Gear Solid for the first time in like 10, 20, probably 20 years. I didn't realize all of the political undertones when I started playing the game.
Sons of Liberty.
Holy crap! What
Sons
is
of
going
Liberty.
on here?
I don't want to get sidetracked with Metal Gear Solid because that's a whole podcast.
Yeah,
right
man.
there.
I was like, what?
But so the creator of that game, his name is Hideo Kojima, and he was obsessed with American politics as a kid. His parents were really big movie buffs, and they would let him watch movies as a kid growing up, American movies, and then he became obsessed with American culture. And then he saw movies like JFK from Oliver Stone in like 1993. And then once he saw that, the conspiracy theories went crazy. But that's why he created Metal Gear Solid, because he was really interested in American politics.
So this is during this 2000 phase, the cinematic transition.
Right, because you guys played Metal Gear Solid. It's like playing a movie.
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah. And then the 2010s is when you transition from the movie video games to what's called MMORPG, which stands for Massive Multiplayer Online Role-Playing Games. And those are games like Call of Duty, where you log in to
Yeah.
a server and
Yeah.
there's 5,000 people all playing missions against each other in Call of
Mhm.
Duty.
So would World of Warcraft be
Yes.
in that category? Okay.
Correct. World of Warcraft, Call of Duty, Counter-Strike, if you guys remember Counter-Strike.
Yeah.
They're
What was
all
the game that they just made into a movie?
Minecraft.
Minecraft would
Oh.
that be category?
Oh, God.
Minecraft it's in the next category, but it is
Like a
an online.
hybrid.
It's an online multiplayer where you interact with other people.
Okay, so we're in the 2010s.
Now we're 2010 to 2020.
Okay.
That's the Call of Duty era.
Got it.
Okay, and then 2020 until now, you have the latest era of what I'm going to call this era hasn't been dubbed yet, but I'm going to dub it the pay for play era. Okay.
Okay.
Meaning games like Minecraft, which is a MMORPG, but it's an MMORPG where you have to pay to access certain things. So
Interesting. Okay.
think of it like you download an iPhone app. It could be an iPhone game. You download it and then you get the basic. But if you want to do this level, or you want this character, or you want that weapon, or you want this mission or that secret treasure, all of those things each cost $5.
This is the OnlyFans of gaming. I understand.
Yes. So that's
let's dub it now.
It is.
Go ahead.
So you call it OnlyFans, I call it pay for play. Okay, same difference.
But I didn't realize that the what is it called again?
Minecraft.
I didn't realize that so all these kids that are playing this game, they are like having to constantly ante up to continue to play.
That's right.
Yes.
Holy crap!
Yes.
What
Yes. That's why it's a forever income stream.
Yeah.
For
That's
Minecraft. Minecraft is older than 2020, but the trend of those kind of games,
Like Fortnite,
it started in 2020 because that's when Fortnite came
Same
out.
way.
So Minecraft has been around since the early 2000s with the cinematic era, but it didn't start doing the pay for play stuff till everyone else started doing the pay for play stuff. So you have Fortnite, you have Minecraft, and then the big one for kids, the huge one I know because I have to deal with one, is and I don't mean that in a bad way. Is called Roblox.
Oh,
I don't know if you heard of that.
Heard of this.
I don't know.
Okay, Roblox is the same thing, and they rope you in because you can download it for free. You literally get the basic level of the version game for free. It's like, hey, try this new technology software. Oh, you want to use Salesforce for your company? Here's a 30-day free trial for Salesforce.
Get you hooked.
And then after that, we hook you in with the thousands of dollars. So you download Roblox for free, and then everything that my daughter wants to do, you got to pay for. Everything.
Genius.
So
drug
it is
dealing
genius.
in a legal way.
Yeah, no, you hit it on the
Exactly
you hit the
what it
nail on the
was.
head. It's OnlyFans. It's a
Let's
subscription.
get these little
basically.
kids hooked on this game and make their parents.
Don't
pay
get
for
me
it.
started on OnlyFans.
I
I
see
might
his
do that
volume
too.
already. He's already getting fired up, man. He's getting heated.
All right,
But keep going.
Yeah.
So cool.
We're not
So we
good.
have like pretty much from the 1950s. So the first game. So what is the date of that? Like 1953? Is that the date?
1958.
58 until today, which is insane, right? If you think about it, if you just look back at some of the games you see now, I've watched some of these games and it's like they're insane. They are visually more appealing than most movies that you could go see, and you get the benefit, like you said, of playing. Like it's not a passive activity; it's an interactive activity. Okay, cool. So now we're kind of in present day.
Yes.
Go ahead, keep going.
So,
I'm learning.
no.
Go ahead, Bobby, because I wanted to open it to questions for you guys.
No, I was gonna ask. It's like, all right, so then explain, like, why, like, the business side of video games. Like, why do you think these transitions have been made? Is there anything? Do you see it as a positive thing, or is it like something nefarious going on? Because you're saying making people pay for everything and stuff like that. I think the Kardashians were part of that trend too, with their app, where you have to pay for everything. They were one of the pioneers of that like format.
Same business model, but
Yeah.
I mean, You're the more conspiracy than me. I'm taking the Occam's razors route of, the simplest answer is the right answer is capitalism. People
It's
just want to make
money.
money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and if you think about it, to play devil's advocate, from my understanding with gaming, the amount of financial investment into creating a game in the beginning, right? You're just making a game. You got to pay all of that out on spec. You don't know. It's like making a movie, right? Like I just saw the Mission Impossible movie. I think it cost like 500 million to make or something along, like maybe
400.
350. Yeah, okay.
400.
And they haven't made their money back yet. So you think about it, you're outlaying all of this money. You have to have some mechanism, some system where you can trust we're going to recoup it. Just like SaaS products, right? Like this is essentially SaaS for video games. It's like a never ending payment cycle. So yeah, I would kind of agree with you. I don't go down the conspiracy rabbit hole. I just
I
see
see both
you
sides.
see an opportunity. It's like this is the best way for us to have a consistent stream of money that we can, pay and continue to grow our company.
The
But yeah, I didn't
technology.
realize all of these games were like you had to constantly ante up to keep, pushing through and moving to the different levels. That's kind of
It,
crazy.
it won't. Just to be clear, it's. I don't think it's nefarious. Maybe Bobby, maybe you do, but
little
they
bit.
won't cut you off if you stop paying. So let's say you only wanted to go to a certain level. You only bought like
Yeah.
the silver sword. You didn't want to buy the gold sword. They're not going to turn off your app just because you bought the silver sword and don't want to buy the gold sword. You'll just stay at that same level. But where it could get into some larger societal issues and political issues, maybe, is you may get ostracized because then everyone
Within the
else that you
community.
play with has
Keeping
the
up with the
gold sword
Joneses,
and
yeah.
you don't have the gold sword. You're screwed.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Interesting.
so that's a good segue into the second part, which is what's the gaming? What's like you as an individual gamer? What's the culture like?
The community.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, the community. Yeah,
And now you're gonna get fired up, okay?
here we
Because
go.
this,
I
this
love
is
it.
a
I love it.
this is a very, very influencer heavy culture.
Oh
You
yeah.
have the some of the biggest YouTubers are gamers. There's a guy called Jacksepticeye, Markiplier. There's a guy called Maximilian Dude. There's some girls that do gaming. They'll play a game. They'll literally like do their makeup and they'll wear nice
Yes.
clothes and like they'll get all these
Oh yeah, I've seen it. Yeah.
a teenage 14-year-old boys following them and watching them play Last of Us, just so they can like talk to each other.
Wow.
It gets there too, but then there's some really good ones that actually dive into the stories and they do analysis, almost like a movie critic.
That's interesting.
And those people I follow, those people I like watching because they don't do the I'll use Chris's term, they don't do the OnlyFans stuff. So gamer culture is pretty that you run the gamut.
Spectrum. Yeah.
Yeah, you got the people that are doing it superficially for those reasons, but they're making money, and then you have the real critical thinkers who are doing it for the art, which is what I do it for.
Well, and just to interject, I mean, our friend Drew, so you lived with him,
Yeah.
Robert, right? He, I would say, is like
He's a gamer.
he's the biggest gamer I know. But just to point it out, it's like I think with gaming, from what I see, there's kind of like the mainstream gaming versus like very eclectic artisanal gaming. So like I've seen him play games where like these Japanese games where you can become like the wind or a leaf or like a rock or like a bird flying in the sky, and it's just like, well, what's the point of the game? He's like, it's just to experience the world. Like you can go down that rabbit hole, or you could be a Call of Duty like bro. So I feel like that the culture is probably very diverse, where you can find there's probably a lot of easy inroads to find like, okay, what is this? What is my my sub community within the gaming world? I'm not I don't know, I'm not a Call of Duty guy. I'm more of this indie side of things. Would you say that's accurate?
That is accurate. Yeah, it's like movies. There's popcorn blockbuster
Yeah.
movies, and there's the independent movies,
yeah.
the artsy fartsy movies. And there's actually a term in the video game industry for the blockbuster popcorn movies. They're called AAA games.
Interesting. Go ahead, keep on.
And there's AAA, then there's AA, and then there's independent art. So the AAA games are the games where it's, again, to your point, you brought up Mission Impossible. That was a good example. A AAA game would be a game where you have a video game studio that invests $100 million into a video game. They'll literally get Hollywood actors
to do voiceover and stuff. Yeah.
not just
Or
the voice.
do the
They'll
voice.
do the name
image.
and likeness.
Mhm.
Yeah. There's a game. Have you guys ever seen The Walking Dead?
Yeah.
Yes.
No.
There's a character called Daryl. Remember him?
Yeah.
I know
He's
Joe,
in a
you
couple
don't-
of video games, I feel like.
Yeah. Okay. So
Yeah.
he's in a video game, and you guys three you know him because you like Hannibal and his acting. He's a good actor. Mads Mikkelsen.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
So-
He's awesome.
So
Oh, Mads
Daryl
Mikkelsen?
Daryl
Holy shit.
from The Walking Dead and Mads Mikkelsen, name and likeness, are in a new video game called Death Stranding, and that's a AAA game because there's $100 million. You got to pay actors. It's realistic. They try to make the game look like real human beings. Versus there's still games today that are in the independent world where it's like cartoons. 16-bit is like a throwback.
Oh, I have
So you're
questions.
still getting both. And yeah, so it's both blockbuster, just like the movie
Just like
industry,
film.
Chris.
Yeah.
Just like the movie, and you got the blockbusters and you got the artsy movies or the video games.
Go ahead.
Joe,
Get it.
do you got anything? I got a
No,
question.
you had a question. You said you had a question, Chris.
Oh, I mean, I have a lot because this is where we
Yeah.
can kind of segue, but I don't want to I don't want to
Right.
go off of. I know Avery has, or I know Robert has kind of a plan, but like
Yeah.
I'm curious to talk about later on would be like, I think in many ways with AI, I think a lot of like film is like
Ooh.
this could be a way for actors to survive. It's like essentially if you're making these big budget video games where you
Yeah.
want the likeness of Charlize Theron or whoever, like that is their next, like the next medium that they can. It seems that like a lot of Hollywood actors are starting to segue
Oh, yeah.
into,
Yeah. Yep.
because as I mean, I think a lot of film and like I think AI will in fact start to replace people in that arena. But it's interesting that they are now making their way into video games. So I don't know if that's like, to me, I don't know if there's even a point to talk about that, but it does seem that like I'm seeing it. Like I was aware of the Daryl character. He's in a bunch. I think he's in a number of video games that my friend Drew played, and he was the one that called it out. So I don't know. Like, what do you think about that? Like actors moving in to these video games, and I don't know. Do you have an opinion on that?
I do. I think they're recognizing that it's just as valid of an art piece as being in a movie. In fact, in my
Yeah,
opinion,
well said.
it's better because I get to play as Daryl. That's cool. That's
Yeah, that's
cooler
pretty
than
cool.
just watching him on The Walking Dead. I get to play as him, and you develop that. It sounds weird and kind of like Black Mirror ish,
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah.
but you
You
almost
connect
like
with him?
hey, you almost connect with him more.
Well, because
And then-
Daryl's selling his soul essentially. He's like, you can
Yeah.
here, you take me, be me.
Yeah, yeah. It's a little
Just
weird,
give
but
me enough money,
it's
and you can wear my
No,
skin. It's okay.
he got paid a lot of
Oh,
money.
I forgot paid more than me.
Like,
Yeah,
Walking
I
Dead.
didn't know there was the budgets were that big. That's insane.
Oh,
Yeah,
hell
they
yeah.
can be.
Yeah.
Oh, dude,
The-
so I think there's so here's a question. With the video games, we talked about 1958. So was the genesis of video games in America and not
Mhm.
like Japan or China?
Mhm.
So so the
America.
birthplace of video games is America.
Yes.
Oh, that's kind of interesting. Because I think like you talking about now in America, I think video games are becoming bigger. Whereas to my understanding, like in Japan, just like manga, right? Like comic books, like adults read comic books. It's like a serious art form. Whereas in America, I think if you met an adult that reads comics, it's kind of like they're always portrayed as like the geek. Whereas I think in like
Yeah.
Japan, a like respected CEO might spend his leisure time reading like manga and playing video games. So it is interesting. Like, we're kind of almost catching up to like their culture, and video games are becoming like more prevalent, more acceptable as like a mainstream form of like legitimate art and entertainment. So that's kind of an interesting shift.
It is. Yeah, it is. And I gotta shout out Japan because they for sure make the best art and video games. They took it. If they don't get credit for creating it,
Yeah.
they definitely get credit for making it what it is today. 100%.
Yeah, it's fascinating. All right, Bobby, what you got?
So there's this is a good transition. So why do you think Hollywood, speaking of actors,
I knew this was coming.
like appreciating it as an art form, which it is, I agree, and I think it's long overdue actually. Why do you think studios and writers are adapting all the stories from video games, and now they're either films or like television series now, where they're, instead of taking it from comics, like Chris said, comics are starting to like, Joe, would you agree? Like comic book stories are starting to decline a little bit because they're Marvel's doing some serious reaching right now, and now Hollywood is adapting. Is it the quality of the story, or they just want to churn out more content? That's a long-winded question, but
No, it's a
No,
good
I-
question.
you get what I'm
It is-
saying. Yeah.
It is a good question. I think it's when you're talking about adaptation,
Yeah.
if it's by a big Hollywood studio or TV studio, they're looking for the easiest way to
Yep.
make a buck.
Yep.
And when you have a property as successful
IP.
as The Last of Us, it's a boom. You got an easy $20 million fan base, 20 million across the world fan base already built in
Yeah.
that you can sell to.
Yeah.
So
for your marketing.
your market reach is already 20 million strong without even lifting a finger.
Yeah.
And you
And-
don't have to build a story from scratch. You already have a story. So just the work of building like a script is just a lot easier to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For the Last of Us, the creator, I'll get into him when we transition into that story because I really want to talk to you about that guy because it's one of my favorite, if not my favorite, video game story ever. To me, it's better than some movies stories. But my point for this question is the creator of that video game. His name is Neil Druckmann. He's an executive producer on the TV show. So he wrote the script and he directed the video game. So all the dialogue and all the scenes are his in the video game. But he let a Hollywood guy write the script and direct the show. And I think he's realizing that was a mistake. I think he's realizing that. Even though the show is good, I'm not going to shit. Sorry, I don't know if I can curse.
No, you
I'm not
can.
gonna-
You could swear.
That is what it is.
I'm not going to shit on the show because it's actually a good show. If the video game didn't exist, it would be a really awesome show. And Pedro Pascal is awesome,
He's the man. Yeah.
but it's not as good as it's not.
Well, yeah, let's
It's
just
not.
pivot to this.
Yeah,
right? 'Cause
let's
this is
talk about
something
this.
I
Yeah.
think we talked about this maybe a
Staying
month
true,
ago.
staying true to the origin story.
Yeah, and we talked about. Cause I think Robert. I think you brought up that your brother had issue
Issues.
with how
Yep.
it was portrayed, right? So
Yeah.
that
Oh,
is kind of
yeah.
an interesting. It's an interesting thing, and it even is beyond video games. It's like when you take IP, you're taking it just like you both said, right? It's because there's already a market, you already have a fan base. Just the same reason why they made all the Marvel movies with the superhero movies. Kids have been watching this stuff since we were little kids. We were watching cartoons with these characters. You have instant fans, right from the get-go. You don't have to write new stories and use all of your brain power. You can essentially just adapt. But then why do they deviate, right? Like you have all your ducks are in a row, and then all of a sudden they say, you know what, we're going to change like fundamental aspects of the story that people have been loving for the last like 20 years.
I know why.
So yeah, from your perspective, like why do you like how do you answer to that?
My answer
Yeah.
is selfishness.
Since you're the fan.
My answer is selfishness, and here's what I mean. And I'm actually gonna not take the Bobby A position on this because I know you
Well, that's
hate you hate the adaptation. You like Game of Thrones, the books, not the. I get it.
Yeah.
But I'm actually gonna throw a curveball for you guys because
Uh-oh.
I don't mind the adaptation changing the original story. I don't mind it.
Okay.
Because if you want the original story, read the book.
Yeah.
If you want the original
Play the
story, play the
game.
video. Play the video game.
Yeah.
If you want to see a beat for beat, literal dialogue for dialogue on HBO versus the video game, to me that's boring. I want the creator of the show to change the video game a little bit, not all the way, but a little bit, and do their spin. Now they also have the selfishness, like I said, built in because they want to create their own piece
Own
of
thing,
art.
yep.
They don't want to redo someone else's art. They want to do their own art. So when the two Davids, I know you hate them, Bobby, but the two when the two Davids adapt
I can't stand those guys.
George R. R. Martin's book, when they adapt it, they don't want to just do the same thing. They want to do their thing. So I don't mind if it changes. If it's good, then I'll like it. In my opinion, if it's good, there's no objective, but it's subjective. But if it's good, then I'll like it. But the changes that the Last of Us show made, I wanted to like it. I was in there. I was like, because I have that philosophy. If I want to do the original story, I'll just play the game again. So I was like, okay, I know they're going to change it. And then there was one episode where they changed one character's entire story. And I was like, you know what? The show, that was better than the video game. But that was 1 out of 10 things that they changed. And that was the only thing that I liked better.
Yeah.
So
I disagree. I couldn't disagree.
Wait,
more.
hold on. But
Couldn't disagree
so, Robert, you did like Game of Thrones, the show, up until like the very end.
Right. And so Weiss and Benioff
Well, hold
were
on. They,
actually...
they had made deviations throughout, but minor. They did stay kind of true to the story.
I don't mind
till
that.
the end.
Right. Exactly. But when they took over and they completely changed the trajectory of what was going on with the character, when they were on their own without any source material, that's where it fell off a cliff. So yeah, so I see what you're saying, but I disagree. You should honor the source material first. That should be first and foremost.
Okay,
And
so
then,
hold up.
Now,
Yeah.
if the source material runs out and you still want to make more seasons, you get what happened with Game of Thrones.
I agree with Bobby. I think as a content creator, if you're adapting a certain material, yes, your core base is the original like consumer, but that's kind of like a small piece of the pie when it comes to someone's going to watch something on TV or someone's going to watch something in a movie theater. I think
So you're agreeing with Bobby or not Bobby?
I'm I'm agreeing
No, I
with
think
Bobby.
he's with me. Yeah.
Okay.
I think it's your responsibility to be a steward to the material, to be
Yes.
by
See,
go ahead.
sorry,
Keep going.
Jeff.
Keep
You
going,
know,
Joe.
you finish.
Finish
Sorry.
your thought.
Yeah.
I think it's to be a steward of the material. You have to be as by the book to the material as possible. Because I know with me, when I was like a teenager, I loved Spider-Man, but I didn't read the comics. I didn't know his backstory. So watching the movie, I thought certain characters did certain things and certain characters were introduced a certain way. And then I came back and found out that Mary Jane wasn't Peter Parker's original love. And that kind of stuff kind of like bothered me. As a as
I know
a
that
content as a content producer, you should, part of your job is to be a steward of the material, not to just bring up your own hubris and try to make the story your own.
Go ahead, Robert.
No, I agree. That's my problem. Is not like you can tweak the story. Like Joe, I'm with Joe too. It's the fact that the Hollywood, like the HBO executives, mandate certain changes be made so that certain quotas get filled. That's my problem. It's the corporate part of it.
I
Well,
think
I know. You
yeah,
guys, I
no,
mean, the corporations are the
Now,
grand,
if
grand
if
enemy
the
of the
artist
world.
wants to take liberties and wants to like massage the story a little bit, cool. I'm down with that. It's the boardroom telling them, no, we need this man to have a romantic relationship with this woman, and this needs to happen, and you need to write this into the story.
I don't think
That's
HBO.
the problem, man.
I don't think HBO said that.
They did it with Game of Thrones.
I think
that's
what
why
they
George
did-
left.
I think what they did was the amount of episodes and also the budget. That's the big. I think those two are the
I
biggest
agree.
things with.
No, they had a blank check. Let's not cut them any slack here. They
This
had
is
a
like
blank-
I don't think they did. I think this is like AT&T
No, I know
era
for a fact they did.
for the last 2
He's got
seasons.
sources, man.
Yes,
Be careful.
yes, I know for a fact they did. HBO
He has
said
birds and spiders out there.
I have whispers. I have
There you go.
whispers.
All right.
I
I mean, I think it's both. I mean, again, it's definitely a both scenario. For example, Witcher, another video game.
Mhm.
Witcher was made into a Netflix show. The lead character was a massive fan of Witcher who left because they started to deviate from the story. And in that case, he actually had an argument with the showrunner. And it was
yeah.
kind of what Ryan is saying. Is like the showrunner, went, I'm making my Witcher story,
Mhm.
right? I'm not making the Witcher story. She was going to make her story. But I do think in other cases, so I think it depends. I think you can find examples where something's adapted and the person adapting it has a deep love and respect for the source material.
Mhm.
Like we talked about this, like Lord of the Rings. When that
Peter
movie
Jackson,
was
yeah.
made, Peter Jackson loved Lord of the Rings. He
Yeah.
tried to make like as close of an adaptation as you could given the scope of the story. Like
Mhm.
obviously you're going to make changes. But then I think there's lots of adaptions. Like I watched Altered Carbon. That's another TV show that was adapted from a book. Did any of you guys see that?
Mm-mm.
Sci-fi was on Netflix. It's like so different from the book that it's not
I
even.
know what you're talking
It's just
about. Okay.
the world is the same world, but the characters are very different, right? They just took the IP, paid the author, and then made their version of the story. Names are the same, some of the characters are the same, but it's a very different thing. So I think like you can find examples from both sides. I do find it like sometimes interesting with video games, and in these cases, it's like you do have massive fan base. Like sometimes it's like, why are you making a change? But I
Mhm.
think it is right. Like no one, it's like the Joker. Every Joker is different because no one wants to be the same
Same.
version of the Joker.
Mhm.
They want to stand out. It's like this is
That's a
my
good point.
Joker. You know what I mean?
That's a good point.
So I
That's a
mean,
great. That's a
that's
great
human
analogy.
hubris. That's
Yeah.
ego. That's pride. And that's like you want to be an artist. You don't want to be a forger, a copier. So I don't know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a great analogy about the Joker. But I'll just last point on this. Joe, Bobby, you guys might be right. I'm not saying I'm right.
Who's
I'm
who's
not.
right?
I'm
here?
not saying I'm right. I'm just saying my preference is I don't mind if they change, if they're adapting. I don't mind it. If it's good, then awesome. If it's bad, then I'm like that kind of sucks because they messed up the original. But I like an artist doing their artistic thing on it.
I see.
That's
I
just,
do definitely see your point in how you can always look back to the original material as your own way to consume the original material. You don't have to have it be uh like a copycat of what it was on the big or small screen. I just think that sometimes you should be a steward of the material too, because there's new generations that are going to watch this stuff or consume this stuff, and they're not gonna know that this is different. They're gonna think that this is the original, and I think it's important to that generation to realize, okay, this is not the same as the original source material.
Joseph,
all right.
you have such a strong moral
Amen.
compass, man.
Amen.
You
Amen.
you might be persuading me a little, Joe. How about this? Flood the comments. Who's right? Me or Joe?
There we go.
Okay.
The zero
There you go.
comments, but yes.
One
I'll put a comment in.
there'll be one comment and is I agree with Joe, and then I lose.
But Joe, I
And
mean,
then
I think
won't.
it is interesting. Like, and this is maybe a conversation for even another day. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
right, as a story evolves, right, stories go. A lot of the stories we have might have originally been oral stories that then turned into someone wrote it down, and now we have this name. Now it was turned into a movie. Maybe it becomes a video game. Like, is there any like sanctity to that story where you owe it to something that you need to preserve it in the form that it was originally created? I don't know, man. That's like a very purist thing. I don't think any story like goes through time without being changed and
Yes,
adapted.
that's true.
It becomes
That's
something
fair.
new every generation.
Yeah, but when you, I see what you're saying, Chris, but I disagree. When
That's
there's
fair.
an actual book that has the story, use the damn book. Yeah,
He's
see what I'm saying?
He's still mad about Game of Thrones.
Oh,
We
yes.
gotta-
I'll
we
never.
gotta-
I can't
gotta get
stand
off
those
this.
guys.
But that's the
It probably
problem.
comes up
we
every
gotta get
couple
over this.
episodes.
That's the
You're
problem. There
still
were
mad.
no books,
You're
Robbie. Though there were no books. That's
What are
the
you talking about?
George. He didn't finish the books.
Oh,
He gave him an
no.
outline.
that's
So
what
he
I'm saying.
didn't finish the books.
What do you think the first 5 seasons
Yeah.
were
Okay,
some
we
of the
can't
best
we
television?
can't go back to
No,
Game of Thrones. It's
yeah,
too
no.
many. It's a decade at this point. All right, next question.
So
Robert
wait,
Avery.
on the Joker thing, as long as they don't ever cast Jared Leto ever
Oh
again.
my God.
That's the Joker.
All right, good.
Because
Okay.
that adaptation, dog shit. But go ahead.
Fair. That's fair. I agree with that opinion. Okay, so we've done the history and the art. Now I want to dive into. We got probably 20, 25 minutes
Yeah,
here
yeah.
left.
No, we
No
got
rush.
time.
Yeah, I don't.
Go ahead.
I don't want to rush you. So okay, so we're gonna talk about two pieces of art. One is The Last of Us, and then one that Bobby has behind him, Final Fantasy Tactics.
Okay.
Okay.
Awesome.
Last of Us. Let's do the story. You guys never played the game, right? Or watched
No.
the show?
I've seen the show, but I didn't play the game.
I've not played the game or seen the show.
Perfect.
Okay, so Joe, sorry, spoilers.
I'm
Sorry. And
I'm a spoiler guy, so it doesn't matter to me.
Oh, you're good. Okay,
Yeah.
and the audience, anyone, if spoilers, then
cares?
the next
Yeah,
10 minutes, click off,
Yeah,
mute it,
or mute
skip.
it. Yes.
Do the 10, hit the 10-second, boom,
There
boom,
you
boom,
go.
boom, boom.
yeah.
Okay, so Last of Us is 2 video games. The first one came out 2013. The second one came out in 2020, and we'll start with the first one first, obviously.
Oh, man.
So you're getting ready, Joe?
No, I'm just thinking of all the memes that have come out with this show.
Yeah,
go
no,
ahead.
the games are better than the show.
Yeah, we're
Yes.
going back to source
Even
material.
though
Yes.
I like the show, I'll just be very, very clear. I like the show. It's a good show. Okay, so here's the story. Like I said, the theme, my question from the creator, what Neil Druckmann is asking me a question. How far are you willing to go for someone you love? And I have to answer that question at the end of the video game. So you start the game as a guy, his name is Joel Miller. He's in his early 30s. They don't tell you exactly how old he is, but he's in his early 30s, and he has a 14-year-old daughter, and they live in Texas. You don't know for sure why he has such an old daughter at such a young age. There's a couple hints in the video game that he had a high school sweetheart and had his daughter early in life. Okay, so he was a young dad, and by the time he was in his early 30s, he had a teenage daughter. So you start the video game in their house when the outbreak happens. So it's Joel Miller, his daughter Sarah, and then his brother Tommy. They all live in Texas together. The outbreak happens, they're escaping from the zombies, and at the same time they're escaping from the zombies, the army is trying to fight the zombies. So the army is just shooting everyone discriminately because they don't know who's a zombie or not, because the infection in this game is not like a Resident Evil or like a 28 Days Later where people like look like zombies, or like that. What's that movie where they get stuck in the mall and there's zombies?
Dawn of the Dead, I think.
That movie is awesome, by the way, because Ving Rhames is in it. He's one of my favorite actors. That's Marcellus Wallace.
Yes,
Ving
it is.
Rhames.
The wolf. I'm sending the wolf, baby.
Oh, the wolf. The Wolf. What a great movie. We could do another podcast on that
Yeah, we
movie.
could.
Okay, so the zombies look like humans is my point. Until at a certain point in their infection, then they look like zombies. It's not a virus; it's a fungal infection, which is a new thing.
Yeah.
That I've seen in zombie lore. I mean, zombie storytelling has going back ages and ages and ages. But this one is actually a fungal infection called cordyceps, which is a little bit based on real science, because there are fungal infections that can take over animals, not humans yet. Knock on wood.
Yeah,
But
we should all be knocking on.
there's a mushroom that can infect an ant and get an ant to kill his colony. I've seen that video.
That's nuts. Wow.
And it's true.
Yeah.
It can like rewire your brain. So that's what.
It's
So
like a parasite, essentially.
Yeah, Neil Druckmann took that concept with the ant getting infected with the mushroom in his brain and said, "Hey, what if that happened to humans?" But at the beginning, you just look like a normal human because it's only your brain that has the fungus in it. So unless you take an MRI of your skull where you can see the fungus in your skull, nobody knows you're a zombie. So the army's fighting the zombie, and they're shooting everybody because they don't know who's zombies. So Joel is running with his daughter, and there's a soldier confronts them, and the soldier says, "Are you infected?" And he's like, "No, no, no! Don't shoot! Don't shoot! I'm alive. I'm a human." And the soldier gets scared and just opens fire, and he kills Joel's daughter. Right, boom! At the beginning of the game, you see his daughter die in his arms.
Wow.
Okay, and it's a powerful scene because I'm like, I started the video game, and then 10 minutes later I'm getting emotional. I'm like, what the fuck? This game is awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, what's that? So um, his daughter dies, and then they do a flash forward 20 years later. So he's not in Texas anymore. He's now in Boston in a military quarantine zone. So the world is total post-apocalyptic. The military is running the show. There's bread lines, because the military has to ration all the food. There, you can't go out because there's all the cities made in Boston, L.A., New York. It's all walled off, and you're in what they call in the game a quarantine zone, or QZ. So he was in the Boston QZ, and obviously his daughter died. He doesn't know what happened to his brother because in the fracas, his brother gets lost. Okay, and he joins a gun, drug, and supply smuggling gang in Boston. So he becomes total hardened criminal. Okay, after his daughter dies. So, and again, keep that question in mind: how far are you willing to go for someone you love? Because this man is still grieving 20 years later for his daughter. That's why he says, "Fuck you to the world. I'm just going to be a hard ass criminal because you, world, took my daughter from me. So I'm going to make everyone's life a living hell because you took my daughter from me." And he is an asshole to everybody. Okay. One day, the group of rebellion group, I guess you can call them, they're called the Fireflies in the game, but they're a rebellion group against the military. So their whole job is to recruit people to fight the military because they're sick of the military dictatorship, and they want to take over and govern the United States. They're called the Fireflies. So there's one Firefly general named Marlene whose best friend dies in childbirth, and she's taking care of her best friend's daughter called Ellie. Ellie is the main character of the whole show. You've probably heard, I mean, those of you who've seen the show, you know who Ellie is. So Ellie is in the Firefly's custody because her mom dies in childbirth, and she's with this Marlene is a hard military general. She's former military, and now she's against them as a Firefly because she wants to overthrow them. So she needs to move her people from Boston to Salt Lake City because they found out Ellie got bit. Marlene found out that Ellie got bit and was immune. Okay. So when she found out that she may have a cure for the infection, Marlene's total strategy changed from overthrowing the military to, I have to get my best friend's daughter to our headquarters in Salt Lake City because that's where our doctors are, and my surgeon needs to get this cure from Ellie so we can save the world. Okay. So in order to do that, she says, who's the best smuggler in Boston who can run drugs, can run guns, supplies, steal rations, run to people? I need someone who's a badass who can take this girl from Boston to Salt Lake City. And she goes, Joel Miller, because he's the hard criminal reputation, the scariest guy in town. So she gives Joel Ellie, and Joel's job throughout the whole video game is to take Ellie from Boston to Salt Lake City Hospital so they can get the cure. I'm going to skip forward there's so many other scenes and characters, but I'm going to skip forward to when they get to Salt Lake City at the end of the game. Joel and Ellie have been through so much together that they've bonded so closely that they're father and daughter, even though they're not blood. Okay. And to the point where there's one scene, really, really tough scene in the video game, and they show it in the show too, where Ellie gets captured by a group of, not only are they cannibals, but the leader is a pedophile, religious cult, crazy person, and he tries to sexually assault Ellie. Then he tries to eat her. Okay, and then Joel saves her from that. I'm getting goosebumps right now in that scene. Joel, when Joel saves her from that guy, and Ellie is crying, you see that the father-daughter relationship is rekindled, and Joel, who's been a freaking asshole for the last 20 years because he's mad at the world because his daughter died, now has a new daughter to replace his dead daughter with. So then they go to Salt Lake City, and they get to the Fireflies headquarters, and Marlene is there because she's one of my favorite characters, by the way, because I agree with her philosophy. It's about the end of the game, the last episode of the show and the last scene of the video game is a battle of philosophies, and I love that. It's like Anthony Hopkins and Ed Harris in Westworld. It's two philosophies
Great scene.
battling.
Remember that
Okay.
scene in the bar? You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Westworld
Yeah.
in the saloon. In the saloon.
It's two philosophies battling each other, and my personal opinion is I agree with Marlene. So again, their father-daughter relationship, and Joel, this is his daughter now, like no qualms. So they get to Salt Lake City, and Marlene tells Joel, we can get the cure, but in order to get the cure, when we do surgery, Ellie's gonna have to die. So Ellie has to sacrifice her life in order to save humanity. Okay? And guess what? And here we go. Here's the question that you've been trying to answer.
Yeah.
How far are you willing to go for someone you love? And Joel's answer to that question is fuck mankind. I'm killing all the doctors and rescuing Ellie and taking her out of the hospital. And that's what he does. And then the last scene is when he confronts Marlene. So Joel literally kills all the Fireflies. He kills the doctor. He kills everybody. And then he gets to the garage to get the car so he can put Ellie in the back seat and escape. And Marlene walks up, and Marlene is like, do you know what you just did? You just ruined the world. And then Joel goes, you can't take my daughter. And then he shoots Marlene cold-blooded right in the face. Done. And I'm like, that's when I hated Joel. Okay.
Yeah.
I thought I hated him more, but I was like, first of all, you killed my favorite character because I skipped all of Marlene's scenes in the video game, but her philosophy on life and all the speeches and the monologue, I totally agree with her worldview perspective. Joel's selfish desire, because this asshole didn't get over his grief
to replace his daughter.
So
basically.
his selfish desire to replace his daughter cost humanity a cure for the infection. Okay,
that's a great ending though. It's like a dark ending. I like that.
It's very dark.
Dude,
and
well
then
done.
here's the coup de grace. Okay, the very last piece of dialogue in the whole video game, which they did word for word in the show because you can't top the video game. They had to do it word for word. They had to do it word for word in the show. Ellie wakes up and knows something is wrong. She's like, why am I not in the hospital? Because she's unconscious this whole time. So she's like, Joel, what happened? And Joel lies to her. He says, the Fireflies couldn't find a cure, and that there's dozens, if not hundreds, of other people that are still immune. So don't worry. You don't have to sacrifice yourself for the cure because other people can do it. You don't have to do it. And then Ellie's like, okay. And then the very last scene, the last piece of dialogue, she goes, they're walking back to Wyoming to see to the settlement that his brother started. And Ellie goes, hey, hold on, Joel, wait a minute. And she's trying to process everything. And then she makes Joel turn around. She goes, I'm only going to ask you this one time, Joel. Swear to me that everything you just told me was true, that there's other people that can get the cure, and that the Fireflies weren't able to get the cure because they didn't have the resources to get the cure, and that there's other immune people that can do it. Swear to me that that's true. And Joel says, I swear. And then the game ends. And then that's when it ends to the show too. So that's part one. What a fucking story. Once I finished, once the credits hit where it said directed by Neil Druckmann, I put the controller down and I was like, that might be the greatest story I've ever seen in a video game, for real.
That is
And
amazing.
then
What a recap. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly. I felt like I
yeah,
played the game. I mean, I saw
yeah,
it, but yeah, that's well
yeah.
done.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and that's just part one. We're not even getting to part two. Okay. Go ahead. I
No,
want to do. We can't do Final Fantasy today. It's gonna take too long. We got to
no.
do part. We got to do part two, and
I
then that's it.
disagree. This is the best story ever told
No,
in the video game.
it's not. It's not. It's not, because part two makes it better. It makes the story of what happened with Joel. It
All right,
makes
so
it better.
let's finish this then. Yeah,
Yeah, do part two.
So,
yeah.
so before I do part two, I want your guys' reaction to part one and any
That
questions.
was fantastic. Like,
Yeah, well, yeah,
I've seen
extremely
season,
well done.
Yeah, I've seen season 1 of the show. I haven't seen the second season, but yeah, like there's some cool scenes. I love the acting. The writing is good, but me never playing the game, I didn't know how close to the source material, like actually what happened in the game was. So you said you were unhappy with some changes. Was that in part 2?
Mostly in part two.
All right.
But they changed a couple things in part one that were a little bit gratuitous. Like, I don't want to bring this into politics, but yeah, and we're not going to go there. I'm not going to judge Neil Druckmann.
No, that's fine.
I don't judge him. I love his art and I respect his art, but politically I don't agree with him. And him and the casting director of this game, they recasted so many people just because those people were of a certain racial makeup, and they wanted to do a different one for no reason. When the people that were the way they were in the video game was for a specific reason. I'll give you one point. There's in Salt Lake City, it's a big Mormon community. Okay, it's all white people. And then he changed all those people to, name the entire rainbow of people. Okay, they just changed it, and it looks awkward because you're going to a Mormon settlement hospital, and it looks like you're in the United Nations, which is
Yeah.
fine. Which
I
it's
get what
fine.
you're saying. Yeah.
It's
But you're
fine,
making
but
you're making a change that now it's not doesn't even base around reality at that point.
Yeah,
You're like going and doing a scene that's in Africa, but everyone's white.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're like
that's what it was. That's
it,
exactly
it
what
does
it was.
affect your perception of what you're seeing and what you're witnessing.
I don't care that he did that, but I lost my immersion when I was watching the show.
Yeah.
I lost it. I was like, what? And not that I mind it. I mean, whatever.
Yeah.
You got whatever you want. Like I said, the creative director can do whatever he wants. Okay, so that one was a little wokish, all that stuff. But the woke stuff aside, he changed substantively. They changed Joel to be like more endearing.
Yeah, okay. That's
So because Pedro Pascal's portrayal of him, and based off the writing and the directing, was he was a nicer guy. He was more of a role model. He was someone you can look up to. When in the video game, this guy is a hard ass mother f. I mean,
Yeah.
this guy was
Yeah.
he didn't care about nobody. He would kill anyone at the drop of a hat,
Yeah.
and he had no love for the entire world. And Pedro Pascal was almost like a fun-loving, cool guy.
Well,
And I was like,
he's a very likable guy.
Yeah.
That's why
I know.
it's
I mean,
hard.
I like
Yeah.
Pedro
That's
Pascal.
But it is
I like-
interesting because I watched the show. I didn't play the game, and in the show, they kind of allude to his maybe darker, like more violent past. But when you see him, he's kind of like a little
It's
bit broken
hard-
down. He's
Yeah,
a little
you're-
bit more like
Beleaguered. Yeah.
like he wants to kind of do the right thing. Where it sounds
never
like
wants to
he
do the
don't
right
ever
thing.
want to do the right thing.
He never wants to do the right thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
He never his Pedro Pascal's character. If he was true to the, like, I don't mind it. I
No,
like
I get
Pedro
it. I
Pascal.
get it. He did a
I
great
want-
job. I liked
he did.
it. I liked his
He did
portrayal.
a great performance. It's a phenomenal performance, and I like Pedro Pascal. And I didn't mind it because I don't want to hate Pedro Pascal.
Yeah.
And if he was really Joel, I would have hated him. Okay.
Yeah.
That's
So
fair to say.
That
yeah,
I
He
just,
probably that's why he probably changed it too. He's like, I don't like people when they hate me.
I don't
Yeah.
I don't
think
want to be
Pedro
hated.
Pascal is capable of playing. He just has too much charisma
That's
to
what I'm saying.
play that type
I
of
agree.
character.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. Who
And
can play that.
you're reminding me of Fallout with Walton Goggins. Like he has charisma
Mhm.
too, but he
Yeah.
is a badass in that show.
Dude,
Yeah.
like you telling the story, it's kind of interesting because I don't play video games, and it's to me, it's fascinating how you can become so immersed. Like I would almost feel like I would lose track of the story, or the story would become secondary. Like when you played the game, like because you watched the show and you played the game, do you felt like when you played the game, you caught all of the nuance and the angles to the story?
Yes,
That's interesting.
when I was playing, I like I
Like
said,
you
I
were
treated
totally
it
immersed.
totally immersed.
Yeah.
I treat it like art. So I knew from the beginning when once I saw that scene with his dead daughter in his arms because some pansy soldier didn't want
Yeah.
to make a judgment call and he just fired it off. He just started firing his whole magazine from his AR-15 and then he killed the daughter. Um, I once I saw that I saw, I said, okay, Neil Druckmann is doing three things with this scene.
Mm.
One, he's saying this is a guy who's going to have trauma. Two, he's making a comment on what actions can fear lead human beings
Yeah.
to do because the soldier is just shooting
Just
everybody. He's not.
reacting.
And then number three is how is Joel going to survive this? Because I knew he was the main character. He's on the cover of the thing. So I was
Mhm.
like, how is he going to survive? So I was those three things I was keeping in mind. And then every scene you would see Joel, and then when Ellie came in, when Marlene brought Ellie to Joel, I was like, uh oh. I was like, she's 14. His daughter was 14. That's the first thing. Because again, Neil Druckmann is writing the script. He knows when he puts that number 1-4 in the script, he knows that means something.
Yeah.
So when I saw that piece of dialogue in the video game, I was like, there's no way that he didn't mean that Ellie was 14 when his daughter Sarah died at 14. That has to mean something. I was like, that's when I said, uh oh, this is you got a hardened criminal now with a new daughter, and that was before they at the beginning they
Yeah,
hated
they
each other.
bonded. Yeah.
They hated each other.
So
So to answer your question, every step of the way I was analyzing.
interesting.
I have a
So
question.
one question
Yeah.
real quick before
Okay.
you go, Joe. So I mean, you have a daughter, right?
Yes.
Now, did that play a part in? Do
That's
you
a good
think that
question, actually.
affected your appreciation or the depth of that story to you?
Man, that's a hard question to answer
The
because I don't want to side with Joel, but I understand it.
Yeah, that's why I'm curious.
I don't I still don't agree with what he did. I don't because my line is that wasn't your daughter.
Well,
Okay,
correct. Yes. Yeah.
you're using that you're using Ellie to fill a hole in your life that you've never resolved. Okay, if it was Sarah that was getting surgery and Joe killed everybody in that hospital to save Sarah, I would shake his hand.
Mm.
Okay, but not Ellie. And again, Neil Druckmann, very intentional. I pay attention to the creator. Neil Druckmann knew that, and that's why I give him kudos. That was a genius move. That's why when I put that controller down when I finished the game, I said this is the greatest because he freaking knew that if it was his real daughter, that's an easy call. Nobody's gonna care. But if it wasn't his daughter,
Yeah.
that's when the moral ambiguity
the gray
is.
area comes in.
Yes,
Yeah, yeah.
yes,
Yeah.
that's when
Well
it comes
said.
in.
That's
Yeah.
cool. Go ahead. Sorry, I
Okay.
cut you off, Robert.
No, Joe, go ahead.
Oh,
Do you
Joe.
think
Sorry.
these new age games are better for adaptation? Do series or movies? Because I'm just thinking about a lot of the movies that have been adapted lately. Like I'm thinking of Warcraft and how it could have been so much better, but it didn't work. And I'm wondering maybe because it had a short time frame to tell a story. Do you
That's a good
think that
question.
the series like I'm just thinking immediately of Fallout where
No.
that show is so good because it had the time to tell the story like a video game. So do you think it's better for these games to be adapted in series form or film?
Series, for sure. Um, all the video game movies that I've ever seen have been bad. All of them. But the series have been good. Again, I don't want to shit on The Last of Us. There's things that I have gripe with. I'll give it, if out of 10, I'll get an 8.5, 9 out of 10. It was a great show. But the video game is like a 14 out of 10. It was one of the greatest things I've ever seen.
Oh man.
So, but it is better as a show for sure.
I mean, Joe, I think that's true. Of like, I think we're gonna see, like, we hit the golden age of TV with like True Detective. I think you're gonna get again another golden age, because I think people, if it's a good story that has meat, people consume most of their entertainment on smaller screens anyway. So you can do a slow burn TV show, Netflix special, whatever, rather than making a 2-hour film that's catered towards going to the theater. I think that even films might even slowly die away. The indie film will exist, but like, because there's more money in TV too, if you think about it, right? You have an audience for a longer period of time. You can kind of really just pull them by the nose and just keep increasing your revenue. I don't know. That was random.
I think the problem though, I just feel like with a TV series, the time that it takes to make these shows, like look at Game of Thrones, like House of the Dragon, it's just taking forever for these shows to get going again, and sometimes you just lose the momentum that you have.
Yeah,
So
that's true.
it's just it's
Yeah.
hard for me to really pick whether
But
a series works or movie works.
But for a video game, I would push back on that. For video games, the story is so vast that you can't fit it into a film, like a 2-hour film,
Can't do it.
2 to 3 hour. It has to be a television series. But
Can't
you're
do
right.
it.
That's a good point. The production side of it, we're gonna have to wait like 2 years. Like The Last of Us, it took like 2 years for the next season to come out, right?
I know.
Yeah.
Yes.
So production size, you're right.
Yeah. Okay.
So let's hit part 2, because I didn't see part 2 of the show, and I'm gonna experience it through your.
Yeah, same. I haven't seen any episode, but I
Okay.
don't care. Go ahead.
Because I also heard that season 2 they started to kind of go a little bit off the reservation.
Wait, but can I ask one last question, and then we can wrap up after part
no, that's
2?
cool. I'm awake now, so we're all good.
No, we should. I want to talk about this game. Yeah?
Dude, that's gonna have to be another day. That'll
No, I
be
know.
games round 2.
We can't.
That's
Sorry.
another
We can't.
hour. Yeah, but no, I'm just making this as a note, so it's on. It's the receipts there.
Ding ding, it's there.
We got to talk about this game because
No. Yeah.
as much
I
as
agree.
The Last of Us was a great recap, this story's better, man. Story's
Well,
better.
it's more depth. I mean, how many
Oh,
Final
yeah.
Fantasies are there?
Okay.
Yeah.
So Final Fantasy. That I don't even get. If I start talking about it, then it's gonna be an hour.
Don't do it.
Let's do part 2.
But
finish
my
last
last
bit.
question before part 2 is:
Yeah.
so do you think the best stories are coming out of from Hollywood are going to come out of video
That's
games?
a great question.
Yeah.
Man, I mean, The Last of Us did. Fallout, Death Stranding is going to be a show.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see why not. I'm not seeing it as often as like the other source materials like books and comic books, but that's changing.
I agree.
Do I see it happening next year? No. Maybe in the next 10 years, because there's a lot of
Demographics going to shift.
there's a
Yeah.
there's a lot of in the last 5 years there's a lot of cinematic games that have come up that can definitely be either movies or TV shows. So I would say in the next 5 years you may even see like 15 to 20% of content on streaming or movies will be from video games.
Wow.
All right.
15%. Yeah. Right now it's like 3%, 4%.
Yeah, that's great. Such an untapped. There's probably just so much
Yeah.
IP just sitting there.
Crazy.
Crazy.
But
It's
there's
right.
a lot of good original
so much
storytelling,
depth.
which is what I like about video games. All right, go part 2.
Okay,
What happens?
Part two. Okay. This game made Ellie my favorite character that in my opinion, has ever existed in fiction.
Wow.
whether that's novels, movies, comic books, whatever.
Yeah, it's
Ellie
crazy.
is my favorite, and I'm biased because I got to play as Ellie, so I the connection was there. So if you guys
What
disagree,
a
fine. I
weird
could be wrong.
idea. I mean, because we're
Yeah,
not. I don't
no,
think any of us are gamers, so that's
yeah,
cool. Keep going. Keep going.
Quick
but
question for you:
this,
Who's
yeah,
the other female like adolescent character in this show? It's Ellie and who else?
it's a girl named Abby, which I'll get
Abby.
into because
Okay.
she's in part 2.
Okay.
Okay, so man, Abby. Abigail Anderson. Okay, we're gonna get to her because they did her dirty in part 2 in the show. They did her dirty.
Well, the
That's
thing I keep hearing is that they miscast the characters. Those two
that's
characters.
that's one issue. Another issue is, well, let me start
Okay.
it. You're right, because physically at Abby in the video game, by intention, because it goes with the story. Like I said, Neil Druckmann had very key points when he made the video game. Everything was intentional. Abby's character, from a physicality standpoint, is supposed to be almost like a bodybuilder girl. Okay, she's ripped. Like, and there's a scene where she's bench pressing 185 pounds, and the actress that they cast for Abby, I would be surprised if she can even bench 50 pounds. Okay, because she's like that tall. And Abby's supposed to be this hulking presence for a reason that we'll get into when I give the recap. But that's everyone across the board. It doesn't matter. I mean, whatever side you're on in ideology, everyone agrees that the actress that played Abby, that was a bad choice. And then there was another really bad choice that I hated more than that. But then I still like the show.
The thing
Okay,
the thing I've heard though is the actress who played Abby should have been Ellie. That's what I keep reading.
No,
and hearing.
she's also skinny too and small.
Yeah.
She's a good actor. She's a good actor though. She's in Game of Thrones.
The actress that plays Ellie or Abby?
Ellie.
From what I read, the actress who plays Abby should have been the person who played Ellie.
I disagree with that. Whoever gave that opinion, I disagree with that.
Okay.
I think Ellie is good enough. Is it ideal? No. But Bella is a great actress.
Bella Ramsey,
yeah, she's a great actress, and I think she's a good Ellie. I really do, and she did it justice for sure. I wouldn't have replaced her. Okay, part 2.
Yeah, go ahead.
So it starts up that same scene where she says, "Swear to me," and then Joel says, "I swear." That's how part 2 starts. Then it fast forward 4 years. So Ellie's 18 years old now. She's not 14. And then Joel is mid-50s. They're in a settlement in Wyoming with his brother, Tommy. They built a whole town there because they're by a hydrological plant that generates energy from the waterfall. So they started a settlement there. So they have power, they have lights, they have air conditioning, they have everything. And then they farm. So they started that settlement. They've been living there for 4 years. Ellie is still mad at Joel for these 4 years. She knows he's lying about something, but she doesn't know what. And she doesn't know whether she believes him or not. Okay. And he's raising his hand. Go ahead.
No, I'm not.
Oh, okay.
Joe's having technical difficulties, ladies and gents, but that's all right. He's there. He's with us in spirit.
So they're in the settlement. Okay. And part 2 is a little bit of a roller coaster ride in that there's a lot of time jumps. There's flash sideways, flash forwards, and flashbacks all throughout the game. Back and forth, and sideways. So the first couple scenes in part 2 is you're getting the tension between Ellie and Joel. Okay, because Ellie's like, there's something not right here. And then there's a really powerful scene at the beginning of Joel giving Ellie his guitar that he made for her, and he put the little butterfly, the moth indentation on it. He carved it because Joel is a wood carver. That's what he did He was a construction worker before the outbreak, and his hobby was carving wood. So he made a guitar for her with her symbol. Her symbol is the moth. That's her symbol, and we can get into symbolism, but that's Ellie is the moth, and there's some Silence of the Lamb symbolism in there, because the moth was a big symbol in that movie as well. So Ellie's the moth. He gives her the guitar, and then he writes a song for her and he sings it for her, which is, they show that in the show too. And Ellie is starting to forgive Joel, starting to forgive him, because you don't know this yet. And spoilers, sorry, Chris, unless you've seen the whole thing,
It's fine.
or Bobby.
I don't care. You could do spoil it.
When they do that 4-year jump, in between that 4-year jump, which you find out like 70% through the game, because like I said, they keep going back and forth. So you don't find out until you're almost finished playing the game. But in the chronology, by the time they're 4 years later, when Ellie's 18, she already knows that Joel lied to her. And she hates him. And she's been hating him for years. But you don't know that. As the player, I don't know. I don't know that yet. And you, who's watching the show, you don't know that until like episode 7.
All right.
Okay. You don't know that. So I'm playing. I'm like, why does she hate him? I mean, I know she thinks he's lying, but does she have to hate him? She doesn't know he's lying for sure. She did. I didn't know that. So
interesting.
So cool.
He gives her the guitar as a peace offering, and she's starting to forgive him. She's starting to. And they have one last conversation. I'm getting freaking goosebumps again.
Wait, though. Okay, keep going.
I'm thinking of my daughter.
This man is in the zone right now.
She has one last conversation with him. And she says, Joel, thank you for apologizing and telling me the truth. But just please tell me, if you had to do it all over again, would you let me make the decision to sacrifice my own life so we can save the world? Can you at least give me that autonomy, Joel, please? And then Joel says, if I had to do it all over again, I would do it all over again in a heartbeat, no hesitation, because I love you. That's what he tells her. But you don't see that until like at the end of the game. And Ellie, she starts crying because she knows Joel loves her. And she's like, I got to forgive this guy because he's my father figure. We got to patch it up. You don't know this yet. Okay. The next day after they have that conversation, Joel goes out on a random run, because they patrol around and they kill zombies and they get food and supplies. When he's going out on that run, he meets Abby. Okay. You don't know who Abby is as the player either. You're like, who is this girl from the former Fireflies? Why is this former Fireflies group there tracking the Wyoming settlement? You don't know they're going after Joel. You don't know anything. And then, oh man, when I'm playing the game and Joel rescues, because when you're on that mission, when you're playing as Joel and you rescue Abby from the zombies, you save her life. When I saw the dog tag of the Fireflies on her chest, I immediately started getting scared. I said, this chick is here for revenge. That's why she's here. Why else would a Firefly be at that settlement? Why would she be there? And he saves her. Joel saves her life. She tricks him into going back to the Firefly camp that they have right outside of the town that they all live in. And she sets Joel up and she kills him. What? That happens in the first 20 minutes, 25 minutes of the game. But you don't know all that backstory with Ellie. You don't know that. And then Ellie sees, after having that moment with Joel when he told her he loved her for the first time, and she was crying and she hugged him and she was starting to forgive him for what he did, he dies the next day. And she goes on a revenge with the rest of the game. From Ellie's point of view, the rest of the game is Ellie tracking Abby and the Fireflies to kill them for what they did to Joel. That's Ellie's part. And she goes through so much awesome shit. That's why she's my favorite character. But I have to fast forward because I don't want to be talking forever.
Yeah.
So you play with Ellie as for the first 50% of the game, and then you see that story build. Then it's a plot twist that I never saw coming. I got to give Neil Druckmann more kudos. He switches it on you. So when you finally meet Abby after playing the game for 15 hours, 18 hours, you finally meet Abby and you have the boss battle where you're fighting Abby. He switches you and you're controlling Abby against Ellie. You're fighting Ellie as Abby. And I was like, I threw the control. I was like, no, I'm not killing Ellie. I am not killing Ellie. I'm not going to kill Ellie. What the hell is going on? But he forces you to play. He forces you to play as Abby. And then you're like, why did he do that? Why did he force you to play as Abby? Then you take control of Abby in the flashback. And guess what the first scene is when you're Abby? You're at the hospital. Abby was at the hospital when Joel killed everyone. And the doctor who was performing the surgery on Ellie, guess who that was? That was Abby's father. Oh, shit. Okay. That's why she was at Wyoming. That's why she was tracking Joel all that time, because Joel killed her dad.
Yeah, revenge.
So she
witnessed it happen.
She saw her dad's brains blown out on the floor of the hospital, and she said, who the hell did this? I'm getting revenge. So that's why, again, moral ambiguity. Who's the bad guy? Who's the good guy? I don't know. I don't know who the bad guy and the good. Those are the best stories when you don't know. So you're playing as Ellie this whole time, thinking she's on this righteous revenge mission, but she's getting revenge on a murderous asshole who killed this girl's dad. Cold blood, killed the dad. And then he switches in the middle of the boss battle. You have to kill. You don't kill Ellie. You fight her and you defeat Ellie. But then you have to do the rest of the story as
so
Abby.
In order to advance, you have to defeat her, even though you said you don't want to. Yeah.
You have to beat Ellie in the boss battle. Yes. And people were irate at the game for part 2, saying, "How the hell are you going to make me fight Ellie? She's my favorite character." So that's what he does. So you play as Abby, and then you learn Abby's backstory. And then I'll fast forward to the end, where then you take control of Ellie, and you're fighting Abby at the last because Joel saved Abby's life, which is ironic because he was a firefly. Or Joel killed all the fireflies, including her dad, but he saved her from the zombies, and then she took advantage of that and killed him. And then you have two people going on revenge missions. The cycle of revenge.
Yeah, exactly.
So the theme I wrote down here, the question that Neil Druckmann is asking you guys when you consume his art for part 2 is, how far are you willing to go for revenge? Not to save someone you love. How far are you willing to go for revenge? So Ellie is battling with that, and Abby, and you have to play as both characters, and you see all of them develop. And then the last scene, you're Ellie again against Abby. Final boss battle, and you're beating the crap out of Abby, beating her, and I'm like, okay, am I gonna kill Abby? Am I not gonna kill Abby? Because I've been thrown for all these crazy roller coaster loops, and the final scene, as you can't defeat Abby because the last punch you're gonna throw, because you're it's on a beach, so you're choking her in the edge. They're in the edge of the water, so Ellie is choking Abby underwater, so she's drowning. And then as she's choking her, it cuts to that scene that you see for the first time of Joel telling Ellie that he loves her, and then they hug and she starts crying. They cut to that scene. That's the first time you see that. Then you're like, whoa, that was the last interaction that those two had together, was love. Love was the last interaction, and then she saw him die. But you don't know that to that very last scene. And that image of Joel pops in Ellie's head, and she lets go of Abby. And then Abby comes up, and she's like, why did you stop? And she says, I have to forgive you. That's what she said.
Wow.
And it's a thing about forgiveness and the circle of revenge. So that's how the second game ends. And that's how I haven't seen the end of the show. I've only seen like the first 2 episodes, but it better do that justice, because emotions were high. Emotions were high at that last scene, because there's 2 titans. because Abby's also an awesome character. To me, she's not a villain. She's not a villain, even though she killed Joel. She's not a villain. And Ellie obviously is not a villain. She's my favorite character. She's been going through so much. This is a girl who mom died in childbirth, so she was carrying that burden. She was a firefly. Then she left the fireflies because she got bitten and found out she was immune. So she had a new mission, was to save mankind with a cure. That got taken from her. Her father figure taken from her. Nothing she has to live for, but yet she still continues to go on. Why? Because she finds a girlfriend, and if you've seen the show, it's Dina.
Yeah.
That's her girlfriend. Is Dina, who's an awesome character. I skipped all of her parts. She's awesome. So you have Dina. So she has a girlfriend. Ellie and Dina raise a kid together because Dina was dating a guy in the settlement and she got pregnant, and then they broke up because Dina was like, I like Ellie more than my boyfriend, so I'm going to be with Ellie. And then they raised the kid. Well, he dies. The guy's name is Jesse. He dies.
There's so many layers to this.
Abby kills Jesse, by the way. Okay. So they have to. Ellie and Dina stay together to raise Jesse's kid in a house, and so she has something to live for until again things get taken from her constantly. And so Neil Druckmann is saying, you, the consumer of the art, whatever your life experience is, whatever your worldview is, whatever you've been through in life, good and bad, I'm going to throw this question at you. How about I take everything from you ever that you've ever had?
Yeah.
I take everything. Can you still forgive? Can you do it? Some people say no.
It's a great story.
I don't know if I can say no. But Ellie eventually says no, and she breaks the cycle. That's part 2.
Yeah. That's wild, man. What a story. See, this is why you can't do it in a film, Joe. You can't tell that whole story in a film.
Yeah, but I think it's interesting. It makes me want to play video games because I have to wonder, being a person, right? Because when you watch a movie or a TV show, you're watching, and we can get attached, but like to play a character for 15 hours and then like all of a sudden now the mission is to kill that character. Like I can't say that I've ever played a game.
Yeah, just
I've
when
gotten that feeling of attachment, right?
Yeah, that's the
Can
word.
Can I jump in real quick?
Yeah, go
ahead. I gotta recharge my computer if we go to talk for another 10-15 minutes.
Yeah, we'll talk for no more than another 10 minutes.
Okay, because I'm seeing right here my battery have 8% left.
Yeah,
10
go
minutes.
grab.
Can I grab my charger?
Yeah,
You can edit a cut.
No, it's
jump
fine.
cut.
No, because I'm gonna ask these two questions.
Oh, you go ahead. Go
Yeah. Go ahead.
Go ahead, Avery.
So yeah, see, like stories like that, it's getting, for me, I used to watch my brother play video games because I never played these like crazy, what did we call it, cinematic video games. I never even heard that term. I've been out of the game since Sonic 3. So, and these stories, I think, in my opinion, I know comic book stuff has more of a legacy and a heritage because it's been decades. Some of them almost 100 years. Yeah. But a story like that, like I've never heard anything like that in any comic book. Maybe Batman, but Batman is close. But
no, but again, I think,
but these are because these are real people. I don't like things when people have special powers and stuff like that. That's my gripe with the comic book stuff, when people can fly and shoot magic and stuff like that. This video game is with real humans. You don't have special powers or like superhuman powers. You get what I'm saying? Yeah. Go ahead, Joe. What do you think about?
This is a very basic question. How many installments of the games are there?
I think there's
there's only 2. Wow. Okay. I would have thought if they were going to do a TV series, they would have done more than just two games. That's surprising.
I think I haven't seen the end of season 2, so I don't know how they chop it up. But that there's the Ellie story arc and the Abby story arc. You can split that into 2 seasons.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I don't know how they do. I'm only on episode 2, I think. I just saw Joel die, and I was like, okay, that was a good scene. The way they did that scene was really good in the
I
show.
think this might be it. I think unless they want to go off the source material, I think this is it. I think it
Wait,
ended.
so did you see the
No.
Bobby? You saw that? Did you see the last episode?
No, I didn't even watch the second season. I
Oh,
watched
you
the
haven't?
first
Okay,
season.
nobody
I
knows.
the end.
I haven't seen it at all.
I
Yeah.
So,
watched
I
the
don't-
second
I don't know.
season.
I saw like a cut up of the video game and the TV series of how Joel got killed, and it's pretty, from what I've seen, it's pretty faithful, except for like a couple of things. But it
Oh,
looked
does
pretty
he
good
get
from what I've.
axed?
Yeah,
Like
No,
a pickaxe?
No.
I think the
She. Go ahead, Joe. Sorry,
no, I think it's the weapon that you use. Just like some.
I know what it is. Obviously,
I'm trying to remember what she used in the show. It wasn't like
it's the same. It's the same.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah. So she blows his knee off with a
Mhm.
shotgun.
Ugh.
So she disables him. She disables him, and she gets a 9-iron
Ah,
and starts
Oh,
bashing
yeah.
his head with
Yeah,
the golf club.
But they didn't do that in the show. They didn't
No,
show her.
She grabbed the
bashing.
golf club.
But
She grabbed
didn't.
the golf club.
She didn't repeatedly bash his
No,
head in. Yeah.
no. They just show it like one time.
Yeah. In the video game, she went
Many
to town.
times.
Yeah.
Oh, it was brutal.
Yeah, but that's I like how you like your whole idea of analyzing a game. It's like what is the question that the creator is asking me, because I think that's kind of interesting. Like, yeah, like
Mhm.
that's the foundation of everything that you're that's the lens you're looking through.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, it makes me think like with video games, like you do have like as a creator, as like the director, you have so many more tools to play around with, right? Because it's like you're creating a world, and like you can create, like I always find it interesting with these world building, because it's like you can go off like the beaten path, and they put all of these little like secrets that you can discover and add to the story itself. Like it's so much more of a immersive experience. Like I can see that's why video games are just growing in popularity. There's a lot more you get out of them than watching like a TV show. Like the amount of work that goes into making them is like insane by comparison.
And it's probably not as micromanaged as a TV series or a movie would be as well. With all
What do you mean by that?
Like with Rob would point this out
This
easily
is
with
a
the
good point.
suits. With the suits,
Yeah,
like
that's right.
they,
You
they
have
won't,
more artistic freedom.
Yeah, they won't micromanage you when it comes to your budget or who they want to cast. Like basically, you can just put in whatever input you want, and then go from there.
All right. I think someone's gonna go ahead, not Bobby.
No.
Oh
I
no,
think
I
he's
was
exactly
I
right.
was I was laughing because you guys, Bobby especially, you guys really hate Wall Street.
Oh yeah,
Like you guys hate him.
100%. I'm the only
Every
one
episode-
here that's the
I listen to every episode. I like it and I watch it. I should comment more when I watch the episode.
fine.
But I have like it's not a drinking game. It's just like when's the timestamp? When's the your bingo card? There you go. When's the timestamp where private equity gets mentioned?
Oh man, you should look at our group chats, man. It's like
Yeah.
it's like a daily occurrence for these guys.